What up y'all, it's Teacher, and today we're gonna be talking about a possible origin to Mega Evolution. This is something the game hasn't officially revealed to us, what Mega Evolution really is, and the closest idea is that it comes from Xerneas and Yveltal's power in some sense. But even that origin is still in mystery and is bound to be revealed in these games, but I wanted to hit y'all with the theory that I've been thinking about for what these Megastones could be. So let me tell y'all the three in-game theories for Mega Evolution. One, that somehow Rayquaza blessed it to the people. Two, that it came from AZ's weapon, Xerneas Yveltal energy when he launched it 3,000 years ago. Or three, Sycamore's theory that evolutionary stones were mutated when AZ launched the ultimate weapon, and it caused them to turn into the various Megastones. So the Leaf Stones, some of them became Venusaurites. All of them are kind of weird. Rayquaza blessing it is weird because it's a Hoenn Pokemon, right? You wouldn't expect that to be the case for the Kalos gimmick, though it could be, you never know. AZ launching the weapon is the one that makes the most sense, but also weird because you never thought Xerneas and Yveltal actually have something to do with this gimmick. And then the third one, Sycamore's, has to be the weirdest of them all. It sounds like Xerneas, you could give it an Ice Stone and it could just make a new Megastone for you, which visually kind of sounds like it could. Anyhow, keep those three origins in mind. I'm gonna tell y'all the thought process I went down to coming up with this theory, and it starts at somewhere interesting, which is the Megastones. I want to show you, like for example, here's the Alakazamite, right? It's called the Alakazite. If you look at the colors, it intentionally has the colors of Alakazam in it. You got the normal white, but specifically those shades that are on Alakazam. Very specifically Alakazam. It's something picked up on fast when we first played X and Y, but not a second thought was really given to why they're like that. That's what this video is about. The Charizardite is exactly Charizard's colors. Look at that red and yellow. So let's take the Rayquaza theory out of the picture and focus on the other two, right? Either Xerneas and Yveltal can bless this and create these Megastones that for some reason look so much like the Pokemon they're for, or two, evolutionary stones mutated to have the appearance of these Pokemon. I'm building a picture here. This especially gets weird when you look at stuff like the Charizardite X. How did that happen? It's got the colors of Mega Charizard X. So when thinking about this whole idea that the Megastones for some reason reflect specifically the Pokemon they belong to, and in the case of like the Charizardite, it reveals the potential it's about to awaken in Charizard. So how could these Megastones have been born, regardless of which theory you look at? And this is when we land on my theory, okay? You ready for this? What I think the origin to Megastones are, or better said, what I think these Megastones are someone else's Megastones. Okay? I'm going somewhere with this. The Megastones you find all across the region, no one knows where they came from, but I want to say that every Megastone you find belonged to someone or some Pokemon first. My theory is that 3,000 years ago when AZ launched the ultimate weapon, we'll talk more about this part later, that what he created wasn't Megastones. He created something like an empty Megastone. A bunch of empty Megastones. These stones that contain life force energy, which is what Xerneas and Yveltal have, right? And they have no actual power to them. They're empty Megastones that are imprintable. Essentially, think of it as like a blank canvas, and it can interact with the Pokemon, and if it gets close to that Pokemon, it can transform into something else. You could say feeding off that Pokemon's life force or something, but that's what they are. So think about 3,000 years ago, AZ launches the weapon, and someone finds the empty Megastone, one of hundreds, maybe thousands of these Megastones, and they happen to have a Charizard as a partner. And as the Charizard, and this is a vanilla theory, so this is not talking about synthetic or anything. As much as I like our thoughts on that stuff, this is fully natural in a sense. So you would think this trainer with this Charizard, after picking up this Megastone, the empty Megastones, and maybe these empty Megastones actually benefit the Pokemon, maybe like boost their stats by 10% or something. But the more they hold on to the Megastone transforms into something, transforms into like that, drawing on the life force of the Pokemon that's been holding it. And so what this pretty much means is that any Pokemon could have a Mega Evolution if you could just find one of those empty Mega Stones. I gotta find a better word for this, like unimprinted Mega Stones. And so the various people who found these Mega Stones, you fast forward thousands of years to now, and the Slobronites, the Alacazites, Tyranitarites, and all you find are actually these imprinted Mega Stones that belonged to someone long ago that unlocked that Mega Evolution within that Mega Stone. And the more you think about this idea, it makes a lot of sense to the various Mega Stones you find. And the main reason I had to come up with this theory is I wanted to think of an alternate reason, excluding all my fun Mewtwo talk, because I'm always trying to counter my own theories of how Mewtwo could have a Mega Stone. And y'all can see it play out, right? So what I'm suggesting is in Pokemon Legends EA, you're not gonna find this empty Mega Stone. They're not in existence anymore, in a sense. But Mewtwo found it. Mewtwo, when it left from Kanto into Kalos, it found the empty Mega Stone. And that's why, despite it being this synthetic Pokemon that just was born like 20 years ago max, that it has a Mega Stone when you find it. Because, just by luck, it found one of the Mega Stones that shouldn't even exist 3,000 years later, and it got imprinted using Mewtwo, and it becomes the Mewtwonite X or Y, depending on which version. This theory is really good for that. It actually answers it. And I like the idea of having this empty Mega Stone that a Pokemon's life force and potential has to first flow into, and then it registers as like a template to then affect the Pokemon back. Because right now the system of Mega Evolution is weird. You gotta hold this Mega Stone, it's activated through a Keystone. This sounds in line with that. And so a Keystone could be something like, so we have Charizard, we have the Mega Stone, and we have the Keystone. It'd be something like, to make Charizard tap into a Mega Stone filled with potential that's compatible with Charizard but not for this Charizard, you use the bond with your trainer to make your Pokemon tap into that, if that makes sense. So if you're the Pokemon that imprinted the Mega Stone, you wouldn't need a Keystone in that sense, because that would be the Mega Stone for you, and it was directly made for you. But generally, Pokemon have very similar DNA, so if you do find a Charizardite, even Charizards later down the line can tap into whatever Pokemon's potential was stored in that Mega Stone. Interesting and unnecessarily complicated but cool theory. I legit think this could be the case. And I don't know if y'all are picking up on the various implications I'm leaving behind here, but I'll tell y'all one of them. Rayquaza. This is why Rayquaza is a natural Mega Pokemon. You see, Rayquaza is a very odd case. This is something very weird when I first found this out. But Rayquaza, you see, it's a Pokemon that does not have a Mega Stone in a sense. It can just Mega Evolve. And it doesn't need a trainer. But there's a deeper layer to this. For some reason, the meteorites in the atmosphere of the Pokemon world, essentially they say Rayquaza has an organ somewhere in its body that functions like its Mega Stone. But they say, and if you have to look properly at the Delta episode to realize this, Rayquaza has to eat meteorites in the atmosphere to like charge that organ. It's unnecessarily scientific, right? But there's a simple thing going on here. The meteorite you get in the Delta episode is a meteorite, but as you go through the Delta episode, the meteorite is slowly mutating. It mutates like 4 times. And if you look at what the meteorite looks like just before you feed it to Rayquaza, it looks like a messed up Mega Stone. This is what I'm trying to say here. The meteorites could be filled with those empty Mega Stones. And the meteorites run out. So after Rayquaza can charge its Mega Evolution, it runs out and you have to feed it more meteorites after a long time. I'll put up pictures of this whole meteorite distortion crap. It's like Rayquaza finds in the atmosphere, it's filled with those empty Mega Stones. And so when Rayquaza eats it, its potential can get drawn into that Mega Stone and then it can Mega Evolve. And so that becomes a new direction for what really Mega Evolution is. And it makes you think about the atmosphere. Also, this is why Rayquaza doesn't need a trainer to Mega Evolve, right? That's the whole theory I'm trying to put together here. It creates an interesting idea for the atmosphere and the origin of Mega Evolution because So Mega Evolutions were born when AZ fired the ultimate weapon. What if and then it seems like Mega Stones, or in this case, I would say empty Mega Stones, rained from the heavens, right? From the falling of the blast. But what if what really happened is when AZ fired the ultimate weapon, that he crumbled a bunch of those meteors and they fell onto the ground, and that's what the empty Mega Stones are. That then people imprint and then we find thousands of years later. But since this doesn't credit the Xerneas and Yveltal energy part, maybe it's something like when he fired the ultimate weapon, the life force energy, when it got blasted up, it didn't just hit meteors in the atmosphere, but it like got infused in all the meteors. And so they mutated into these empty megastones and then crashed down. Something like those are the two parts to a megastone. Something to do with the meteorites that circle the Pokemon world, and then Xerneas and Yveltal's life force energy. So they were put together in the atmosphere 3,000 years ago, and then they rained down. Tell me that isn't a good theory. I mean, I've been thinking about it so much, so it sounds good to me. Maybe to hear it on fresh ears, it doesn't sound that good. Y'all gotta let me know. I think one of the reasons I came to this theory is how odd the megastones are, in the sense that, look at them. The Venusaurite, the Tyranitarite and all, it's like they all have this potential stored in them. Logically, it doesn't make sense something like that could have happened naturally. That megastones just somehow function specifically for a Pokemon and they're found around the world. It looks like someone already stored potential in the megastones. And I think this would be a really cool revelation to realize these are what the megastones are. And you could even take this a step further and say that the first people who imprinted their megastones, like those Pokemon that created them, maybe they had more of like a battle bond situation going on. And then maybe technically all megastones are actually stored potential of 48 different battle bonds that existed thousands of years ago. So an actual battle bond that someone had with the Venusaur that made it look like Mega Venusaur, except customized for that trainer. I don't really know too much about that. We still got to think about the battle bond stuff, but take that out and it's an interesting idea. Also works with stuff like Diancie, right? If Legends EA wanted to give us this revelation, they could show it in person by having some character in Legends EA have an empty megastone. And at the end of the game, they do use it to awaken the potential of their Pokemon. Or like your rival in the game, right? They could be always carrying on like some pendant of an empty megastone, and when you fight them at the end, it transforms for their starter Pokemon or whatever. So to reiterate, you find a Charizard on the ground. What it really was long ago an empty megastone that once molded to a Charizard's potential, and now you just find it left there. And this is my favorite part of this theory, right? This is the answer. You ready? This is the answer to why there are X and Y megastones. It's not that they're counterparts for Xerneas and Yveltal. They could be. This is just one explanation, right? It was another Charizard's potential. One Charizard, when an empty megastone molded to its potential, brought out what we call the Y form. A whole different dude in his Charizard, its potential was the X form. And all we're doing with these megastones is tapping into that template. But it answers why there's multiple megastones. Technically, there could be many kinds of megastones following this theory for each Pokemon. There could be Charizardite W, Charizardite V. Let's say there were 4 ancient Charizards that were destructive back then, had strong trainers. They could have all awakened different Mega Evolutions, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with that X and Y being Xerneas and Yveltal. Something like this makes it a lot more realistic because, you know, Pokemon is not gonna do super fan service things. And so, you know, Charizardite Z always sounded weird because of that. But something like this can answer that and make it sound a lot more simple so that you can make different Charizard Mega Evolutions. I know Game Freak would be mad excited for this because, yeah, they would want to make another 2 Charizard Megas if they could. It could be the case. Anyhow, that's pretty much it. Y'all let me know your thoughts. This is the best theory I could come up with for now, and I actually like it a lot. So let's see what ZA has in store for us. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.